Welcome to Proven and Probable. I'm your host, Maurice Jackson. Joining us for a conversation today is Dr. Quinton Hennigh, the president and chairman of Novo Resources, which is focused on a new paradigm in gold exploration and investing. Dr. Hennigh, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Maurice.
Glad to have you back on the program. Last time we spoke, Novo Resources accomplished a major milestone, and that was the inclusion into the GDXJ. Since then, Novo Resources has been extremely busy on a number of fronts, from expanding the project portfolio, providing bulk sample results, mechanical rock sorting, and DTC eligibility, just to name a few. But before we go into greater detail, Dr. Hennigh, for first-time listeners, who is Novo Resources?
Yes, we're a Canadian-listed company, but we are focused on exploring in Australia. I founded the company roughly 9 years ago, and it was explicitly to explore for a certain type of gold deposit in northwest Australia in a region called the Pilbara. The Pilbara, as you can see on this map, is along the just in from the Indian Ocean along the northern coast. Two cities, Port Hedland up here and Karratha over here. There are major cities that give access to the interior where there's a lot of iron ore mining and things like this. Now, most people viewed this region for the well-known iron mines around Newman and Tom Price. This is iron ore that's been produced for over 50 years now. All right, but we recognized potential early on for gold in the same strata, believe it or not, as the iron ore sequence. We had a hypothesis that the Pilbara, this region of Australia, was once connected with the Capwell Craton in South Africa. Both of those cratons are very, very old rocks. They're over 3 billion years old. They share a lot of geologic similarities, including the strata that's been deposited on each block. Okay, so the stratigraphy can be correlated from one side of the ocean to the other. In South Africa, as many people know, there's vast deposits of gold in conglomerates in a basin called the Witwatersrand Basin. These gold deposits have been mined since around 1886 when they were first discovered. They produced something like 35% of all the gold produced on Earth, around 1.7 billion ounces. It's a remarkable deposit. It's basically the Saudi Arabia of gold. People can think of it that way. All right, so the logic was, if deposits like that are present in South Africa, maybe over here in the Pilbara Craton, there are similar deposits in conglomerates that and of similar age that have yet to be found. All right, so we came to Australia on that premise. We first structured deals with a gentleman named Mark Creasy, a well-known prospector in Australia. And those deals were largely centered over here in the eastern part of the Pilbara region. This is a vast, vast region from one side to the other, and this image is over 600 kilometers. And from the coast up here down to Paraburdoo is something like 250 or 300 kilometers. This is an enormous target area. Our first exploration effort was at Beaton's Creek. We drilled here in 2011. Drilled up a small resource to begin with, but what we learned is that the conglomerate units are quite continuous, and the gold is indeed there. It's coarser grain, certainly coarser grain than the Witwatersrand, but it is indeed present and appears to be economic. So we tackled Beaton's Creek, also a bit of exploration up here in what's called the Marble Bar area. But that was our focus for mainly for the first 5 years. Since that time, we've moved over and we've acquired this vast land package over here by Karratha. This was based on a discovery roughly 2.5 years ago now of gold being found by prospectors in areas like Cometwell and Purdy's Reward right in here, as well as other areas around the margin of the basin, including Hennigh over here and some other select locales. All right, these gold occurrences, although known by the locals for many years, the news got out. I found out about it in late, 2016, and we quickly assembled this land package you see right here. So we staked a lot of ground, 100% owned in blue. We also did a joint venture agreement with Artemis Resources in red. We also acquired the Comet Well package, which is a small orange block here. Since that time, we've added some other pieces of ground, particularly out here at Hennigh.
Dr. Hennigh, you've already introduced us to the project portfolio, but introduce us in particular to the value proposition we have before us.
Certainly. Look, these conglomerate gold systems are different gold deposits than most people are used to. They're flat, they're sheet-like, they're continuous over large areas. We've latched on to three systems in particular that we're focused on right now. The first being Beaton's Creek, where I talked about our first acquisition with Mark Creasy. In 2017, we jumped over here to Comet Well and Purdy's Reward, and we're actively exploring there now. Just last year, we assembled the land package at Hennigh, and we're conducting advanced exploration there now, including bulk sampling, things like that. All right, so I'm going to walk through these things and explain each project. They're all at different stages. It's really important people know what stage each project's at and what our trajectory is for each project. So at Beaton's Creek, we've now undertaken a couple rounds of drilling over the past few years, and also large-scale sampling. So this would be trench sampling as well as bulk sampling. And our current resource stands at somewhere around 670,000 ounces, measured, indicated, and inferred. We are looking to grow that. We are hoping to get a resource put together at Beaton's Creek north of 1 million ounces very shortly. Not only that, we've done a lot of work like test mining and other things to demonstrate the economics and continuity of this system. So we are looking to advance that project towards monetization over the coming year. This project is our most advanced. It's certainly a robust project. What you see there at Beaton's Creek, you see conglomerate horizons. Some places it's stacked 6 high. So we have a conglomerate bed with a bit of intervening material, another conglomerate bed, and so forth. So we have a robust deposit, easily accessible from surface. Many people know coal mines in, say, West Virginia or the eastern U.S. They're kind of tabletop mines. That's the kind of setting we have at Beaton's Creek. So it's a really interesting deposit from that aspect. Could be very cheap production from there. The gold is coarse. It's easily recoverable. Gravity recovery captures a lot, but cyanide captures the rest, so that we expect very, very good recoveries out of that deposit in particular. All right, over here at Comet Well and Purdy's Reward, this is where we went second. So we've been in this area now active since around September of 2017. That's when we began our first exploration in earnest. What we've done here is we've evaluated the system, first of all, because it is a very coarse gold system. This is not your average gold deposit. The gold particles in this are often tenths of a gram up to multi-gram, even tens of grams. So, and they're distributed through the conglomerate somewhat randomly. So you can't just walk up, grab a rock chip sample, and expect to know through fire assay what's in this rock. We've had to do some very hard yards in terms of bulk sampling and other means to begin to evaluate the grade here. What we've shown at Comet Well and the Purdy's Reward joint venture with Artemis is that the continuity appears to be good over several kilometers through here. We've done a lot of core drilling for geology. We've stepped out into the basin, and right now we've got enough data. We put enough to get data together between the core drilling and the three-dimensional modeling we've done around that, as well as the grade data that we've got from the bulk samples, to put together a mineralization report. Now, this is a big step for us because these tenements, all of these tenements you see here, are currently exploration licenses. In order to advance a project towards a mining stage, you have to convert exploration licenses to mining licenses in Australia. And to do that, we need a couple of things. One, we need a mineralization report. In this case, we're not necessarily going to produce a resource per se. We'll demonstrate that we have a potentially economic body of rock here through the data that we've collected that I just mentioned. All right, so we are going to submit a mineralization report within the next few weeks. The other aspect that's needed is an agreement with the Aboriginal community. This would be the Nalama community. They basically cover most of this project area here. We've been in negotiations with them and developed a good relation with them over the past year and a half or so. we need to strike what's called a native title agreement. That gives us rights to go mining, as well as they have commercial rights such as royalty as part of this project. But these are things that also have to be worked out for granting of a mining lease. All right, so that's kind of our trajectory. We anticipate taking Comet Well and Purdy's Reward through a development trajectory, probably first through trial mining. In fact, we might do a certain level of trial mining this year that gives us the more supporting data for developing a larger scale mine. But we're definitely moving that thing forward in a trajectory towards making it a producing asset. Now, you can see that's really just a small part of a much bigger land package here. These conglomerate horizons, like I said, people have found nuggets weathering out of these conglomerates over many kilometers through this region. We have a lot of greenfields work to do to explore us along strike through this region right here. We also have some very interesting new ground at Hennigh, which we've recently assembled. So at Hennigh, what's happened is the conglomerates, which are located back up in this area and cap a few of the mesas through this region, they've weathered away over time. They used to cover this entire part of Australia here. But as they've weathered away and receded back this direction, they've left the gold that was in them behind across this terrace, this flat country through here. If you drive across this country, it is absolutely flat as a pancake. You'd think you're in West Texas. You look either direction, it's like a pool table. But that surface, that flat surface through there, has a lag gravel horizon on it. This is a gravel horizon about 1 to 2 meters thick. And what we demonstrated last year when we did trial bulk sampling at Hennigh in this area is it contains gold, and it's fairly coarse-grained gold, at least at Hennigh. What we found is we recovered something like 108 grams of gold out of 100 cubic meters of bulk sample that we collected. That's pretty remarkable. You know, a lot of alluvial deposits are, say, less than 0.3 grams. And so the grades we're seeing here are enticing. Now, our hypothesis is that this terrace, this big flat area, and we have, say, about 400 square kilometers of it right through here. We think that terrace could be a sizable gold project on its own right. So it's basically another very large target we have. It is earlier stage, but the nice thing about Hennigh is because it's soft rock, soft gravels at surface, we can advance this in a fairly orderly fashion. The other thing is some of these blocks in here, like this little block you see, is a mining lease. All right, we control that 100%, and we are able to get out there and do a lot of test mining and stuff like that we can't quite undertake, say, at Comet Well at the moment. So Hennigh is definitely going to be a focus for us this year. We're going to tackle that terrace gravel, see what kind of economics that might have, and size potential that might have. So we're going to do sampling not only in the mining lease, but hopefully in some more disparate areas out here, so in a more extensive areas to show the hypothesis that this region could hold a vast gold deposit could be true. All right, so that's our goal this year.
Dr. Hennigh, allow me to interject here. This land package you have here, it looks quite massive. How many square kilometers are we looking at here?
Yeah, it's just around 12,000 square kilometers at present.
And in the bottom left-hand corner here, we have the legend, and that shows the relationships you have with your joint venture partners. Is that correct? That's
correct. Yes, we've got 100% owned ground. Pioneer Comet Well is a joint venture with some prospectors. That's up here right in this area. And then the Artemis joint venture, which is a 50-50 joint venture in red.
Let me ask you this, sir. I know Novo Resources has undergone a tedious and methodical process in attempting to figure out grade and tonnage. In the spring of 2018, the company released the first bulk sample results from Comet Well. How have those been coming along?
Yeah, the bulk samples from Comet Well, the ones that we released back in May, were the first two that we got done. It was a big exercise, as most people know, to get these samples through the lab. It required several renditions of crushing and experimenting and assaying different streams, and it took we also were battling a bit of wet weather down in Perth last year. But it took a long time, but we did get a pretty comprehensive set of assays out in late October last year that demonstrate the grade of these conglomerate horizons. So what we've identified are two conglomerate horizons at Comet Well and Purdy's Reward in this area. The lower one of which is, say, 2 or 3 meters thick. The grades range from about 1 gram to 6 grams in that range, in that lowermost unit, and it sits right on the basement. So it's basically the lowermost bed of rock in this bigger sequence. Above that, about 12 to 15 meters, is a second horizon. We call it the Upper Cannonball Conglomerate. The Upper Cannonball Conglomerate is about 1 to 2 meters thick, and again, the grades in that bed are on the range of 1 to 3 or 4 grams, somewhere in that range. So again, it's very continuous along strike. We can see good continuity from one trench to the other over several kilometers. I think about 3.5 or 4 kilometers right now. And we feel very compelled that it's demonstrating this similar continuity to the beds we see at Beaton's Creek. I guess the best way I could couch this is this. At Beaton's Creek, we had several challenges going back in time. Anybody that's been with us for a while, they know that we had to develop sampling protocols to deal with the coarse gold, assay protocols that were unusual. It took some time to develop this. But now we have this project advance. It's basically getting close to being ready to mine. All right, Cararthur and this area, this Comet Well Purdy's Reward area, is going along the same trajectory. We've had to cut our teeth with different styles of bulk sampling and assaying, but we've now got things under control. And we're also experimenting now with things like kind of unconventional techniques of recovering the gold. We've done test work with TOMRA, for example. This was starting in late last year in November, and the results that came out are fantastic. We think there is potential to crush up the conglomerate, mine and crush up this material, and then put it through, screen it of course, but put it through an ore sorting machine, and actually let the ore sorter pick rock with the gold particles. The downside of gold, coarse gold, is assaying it is a bear. It's a real challenge. But the upside is that the metallurgy might be very, very favorable for us. So we're very excited about that ore sorting possibility.
Dr. Hennigh, the following may be a bit mature to address at the moment, but the two most frequent questions I receive from prospective shareholders are, is this a placer deposit, and how do you intend to extract the gold? What do you have to say to those two questions?
Sure. The first question is a very good one. I came to this region on the basis that there might be deposits like those in South Africa. Now, let me give a little background there. In South Africa, there's really two types of ore. There's a conglomeratic ore, and in that, the gold occurs as particles distributed in the matrix of the conglomerate. In effect, those are alluvial deposits in the Witwatersrand Basin. There is also what they call carbon leader ore. Carbon leader ore is a very, very thin seam of carbon, almost like coal. And I've written several papers on this with other authors. We believe that that seam of carbon is basically the fossil remains of early cyanobacterial mats that formed or evolved in a time when Earth's atmosphere was largely reduced. All right, so the idea is the seawater back at that time, under reduced conditions, would have been able to dissolve a fair bit of gold. Gold dissolves in reduced, atmospheric conditions. All right, so here comes this cyanobacteria. It's starting to kick off oxygen. It was the first photosynthetic life. What we believe is that oxygen, which causes gold to precipitate, actually started pulling the gold out of seawater and created that little carbon seam type ore that is very, very rich in gold. It's a very, very unusual style of gold mineralization, but it's a thin, very continuous, covers many, many square kilometers seam of carbonaceous gold ore. Now, I came here looking for similar carbonaceous ores. What have we found? Well, at Beaton's Creek, in fact, we've talked about this in the past, we've actually found particles, pieces of carbonaceous material in the conglomerates over here. So, to answer your question, at Beaton's Creek, we see two types of gold. We see bona fide alluvial gold. These would be loose, somewhat rounded particles in the matrix of the conglomerate. But we also see a component of carbonaceous material at Beaton's Creek that tells us that that same process that you see in the Witwatersrand was active over in this area. That was where we first started working. Now let's jump over here to Comet Well and Purdy's Reward. What we see in the conglomerates here are large, rounded, they appear to be water-worn nuggets of gold. The origin of that gold, we still haven't put our finger on it, but it's possible that that gold has been recycled from weathering of previously existing conglomerates or carbonaceous beds that no longer exist. In other words, yes, in their present form, it's alluvial gold, but its ultimate origin is still in question. The other thing we have over here is we have gold that appears to have grown in the matrix around the nuggets. This is what we call halo gold. It's a thin halo about 2 or 3 millimeters wide around the gold nuggets, the coarse nuggets. And we believe that gold is actually a precipitated type gold, probably in response to biogenic activity. So once again, I would say it's an admixture of two types of gold that have brought this system together. All right, we have alluvial particles for sure. We have secondary gold that appears to be perhaps biogenic in nature.
All right, and the second question, sir, just as a reminder, is how do you intend to extract the gold?
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier. Look, the coarse gold is a problem from the sense of assaying, but in terms of recovery, it is quite favorable. Gold is dense, all right? So one of the easiest ways to treat coarse gold is, of course, gravity recovery, and that's certainly a possibility. But one of the things we wanted to look at was, we'll call it a somewhat portable style of processing, i.e. using these ore sorting machines. These ore sorting devices they're skid mounted, or they're mounted on a transportable platform. They can be moved from one location to the other. Now, why is that important? Well, this is a flat deposit, so if you have something that's long, rather than trucking the ore from one place to another over kilometers, why not mine, process right on the spot and then move as you mine the material. All right. So we looked at TOMRA ore sorters starting late last year. We tried ore sorting early in 2017. Had mixed results with the Steiner. First looked like it worked great. Second rendition didn't work so well. When we went to TOMRA, they showed us some reasons why they thought they could improve things dramatically. And just recently, we published the final data from that. In fact, the two samples that were good, coherent conglomerate material that we put through saw recoveries over 80% just by sorting. This is using a scanner device, X-ray transmission, and a scanner device that literally picks out particles of rock off a conveyor belt that have gold embedded in them. All right, so it's just remarkable. I mean, think about it. You could take basically gravel, put it on a conveyor belt, send it across this machine, and flip, 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 it picks out the little particles of rock with gold. You end up with a concentrate that's a very, very small fraction of the overall mass you put in that machine, and the thing has most of the gold in it. There's a few additional steps we got to take to test this. What do we do with the fines? Well, I think we could agglomerate them and then put them through the ore sorter as they are. In other words, turn them back into little pellets or something, let the ore sorter pick them out. Or the other thing we could do is just put the fines through a gravity circuit on their own. All right, so these are things we're looking at, but basically we are looking at, we'll call it unconventional means of processing for this very unconventional deposit.
Forward, what are the company's goals and objectives for 2019?
Yes, I'm going to talk about these for each project. All right, so we got Beaton's Creek, which I talked about as being the most advanced project. We have a resource remodel underway right now. This is work that's ongoing. We're expecting some bulk samples back from the project. These are ones we collected late last year. Once we have all that data in the next couple of weeks, for a few weeks, say by the end of this quarter, we anticipate publishing a new updated resource for Beaton's Creek. We are targeting over 1 million ounces. We'll see if we can get there. I feel pretty confident. It should be a robust deposit. Puts the project in a good path for monetization. So then we're going to, take the next steps of looking at how we we potentially develop that project. Second project, Comet Well and Purdy's Reward. We anticipate doing a level of trial mining this year. We are continuing to look at some of the test work around the TOMRA, for example, as a means of processing at Comet Well. I think once we get a full evaluation, we do have a bit more data, we got to get back on that. But once we have a full evaluation of that processing, we'll look at that trajectory. But we bear in mind we also are shooting for that mineralization report and working on native title agreements so that we can convert a lot of that country into mining leases. Right, so that's the trajectory for Comet Well and Purdy's Reward. And then Egina, once the rainy season is over here in a few weeks, we anticipate getting out there and hitting the mining lease very hard. This is the mining lease where we took our bulk sample last year. We anticipate putting together on a test basis, say a grid of samples across a target area where we can see if we can put together a resource on the terrace gravels. We also anticipate, because it's a mining lease and we have permit to go up to 50,000 tons extractable, we also anticipate doing some, say, small-scale test mining, things like that, to help build our confidence around that project. The other aspect of Egina, very important, we anticipate taking some samples further afield, so going out in some more distant areas and trying to get an idea of how extensive that deposit is. Because if we prove that deposit covers a vast area, many tens of square kilometers in that country, I think people will sit up and take note. I think that's really a big add to the story we have in the Pilbara right now.
Near term, what is the next unanswered question? When should we expect results? And what determines success?
Okay, look, per each project, the factors that determine success are a bit different. Okay, but we have data coming back from bulk samples from Beaton's Creek that will help support a new resource model. Again, that's going to be over the next few weeks. We anticipate getting that resource put together by the end of this quarter. If we see a resource above 1 million ounces, I think we now have critical mass that allows us to look at that project a bit differently and more aggressively in terms of advancing it. As far as Comet Well goes, I think right now we feel comfortable with the grades and the continuities we're seeing. I think we have a fairly decent understanding of what this deposit is. What we really need to do there is to go test mine it on a scale, maybe on a scale of a few tens of thousands of tons, and from multiple locations along the strike of the conglomerate. That, and we have to do some ore sorting tests to see if we can use that as a means of processing. All right, so those are the two factors. If we can successfully process this material using an ore sorter, and that includes capturing the gold that's in the fine material and so forth, I think we have an exceptional means of treating this unusual mineralization. Right, so that and test mining at Comet Well are absolutely critical path for us. At Egina, because it's free dig, because this gravel at surface is free dig, we have the luxury, and because we have a mining lease too, we have the luxury going out there and being pretty aggressive with this. All right, so we can go out and start digging some 100 cubic meter samples like we did late in 2018, and we can advance that project quickly. Basically, it's almost like doing an exploration program in parallel with with test mining and test processing and stuff like that. So I really think, even though the metrics are not fully defined yet, I think Egina is one where it's a easier project that can be advanced much more quickly, and that therefore it's going to become more and more important to the company.
Sir, what do you see as the biggest challenge for Novo Resources, and how would you mitigate that situation?
This is a good question. Australia is a very good place to work. I've talked to many people. Look at the Western Australia in general. Look, every single project that's been put up to for permitting and advancement has become a mine. Okay, there's virtually no examples where a deposit wasn't mined. All right, but it takes time. That's our determining factor. We have to do things like permit. We have to get mining leases from expiration license. Like we have to do the proper steps. We have to work with social license. We can't just go in pell-mell and start mining. I think a lot of people, they look at our projects and they're very exciting, and it's easy to see that these things could be developed. You could literally go out and start mining some tomorrow if you had that luxury. But we have to do things right here. We have to do things right, both in terms of permitting, social license, and all of those aspects. But we also have to do the right technical work to make sure we take the right steps. We don't want to go and fall on our sword. I guess my comment to that question would be time and our patience is what we need.
Switching gears, sir, can you please share with us the current capital structure for Novo Resources?
Sure thing. We have a little over 163 million shares out. We have a few options and warrants out there, bring us to 204 million shares. Right now, we have a little less cash than you show on the screen here. We're around 45 million at the end of the year. We have a good treasury, which is great because these projects, like I just said, need time and patience to advance. What we really are appreciative of is the shareholder base. We got good shareholders. We have Kirkland Lake. We have Newmont Mining, Mark Creasy, who I mentioned earlier. We have a lot of long-term shareholders who really understand the geology, and they understand the steps that we need to take to get these projects through to fruition.
And at the recording of today's interview right now, the share price is at $2.32. Sir, for U.S. investors, what can you share with us regarding DTC eligibility?
Yeah, we filed DTC eligibility, I think, in October or somewhere, sometime around then last year. What it means for U.S. citizens is, it enables shares to be traded electronically. It's an easier way to facilitate electronic trading, basically, and it makes it easier for U.S. shareholders to put those share certificates into a brokerage account and so forth and trade them. So we did that for the benefit of our shareholders, and I haven't heard any complaints since.
Last question: what did I forget to ask?
What does Novo want to become? All right, people who really know us know this story. They know we want to become a gold producer. Novo has tackled a very unusual style of mineralization, but we want to prove that these deposits are going to make good economic mines. And we have three very promising projects, each of which has huge potential. All right, Beaton's Creek, Karratha, as well as Edina, all have extremely good potential to be very large and hopefully very high margin deposits. I think if I had one comment to say, that's the path we're going to take. Novo would like to become an established Western Australian gold producer.
Dr. Hennigh, for someone listening that wants to get more information on Novo Resources, please share the contact details. Sure
thing. Look, Leo Carabellis, his telephone number, 416-543-3120. He's located in Toronto. He is in charge of IR. His email is leo, at novoresources.com.
And as a reminder, Novo Resources trades on the TSXV symbol NVO and on the OTCQX symbol NSRPF. Novo Resources is a sponsor of Proven and Probable, and we are proud shareholders of Novo Resources for the virtues conveyed in today's message. And last but not least, please visit our website, provenandprobable.com. We will read insights and bullion sales. You may reach us at contact@provenandprobable.com. Dr. Quinton Hennigh of Novo Resources, thank you for joining us today on Proven and Probable.
Thank you, Maurice.
Thank you for joining us today on Proven and Probable. Remember to like and subscribe for more conversations with the most respected names in the natural resource space. Check out our website at www.provenandprobable.com. The information presented on Proven and Probable is provided for educational and informational purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose. The information is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice, or any other advice. You should not make any financial, investment, or trading decision based on any of the information presented without first undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or competent financial advisor.
Least, please visit our website, provenandprobable.com, where we offer mining insights and bullion sales. You may reach us at contact@provenandprobable.com.